Hello, my name is Haben Abraham. I am the owner of Haben Abraham Vision Coaching LLC, which is a joint mindset coaching and therapeutic service. And I am here to say, well, first of all, hello to Hartford Public Library and to all of you that are watching. I'm coming to you today with a journal journey activity that I will facilitate. And it's really a practice on addressing our limiting beliefs. I am very big on the mind-body connection and being intentional about understanding how they go so hand in hand and really respond to one another, and thus creates our day-to-day experiences. It can either lead us to wellness or illness. And so this is why this particular topic is so important for me, and to me, and something that I hold dear in my own healing, and also what I help other people achieve. And so, for starters, let me just kind of go through some of the supplies that you might need. There are some exceptions too, depending on, what you may have readily available in front of you. So just keep in mind, you don't have to use things exactly as I state. You can use whatever it is that you have on your person. So one thing that will definitely be important is paper, both for writing and if you want to, because there's a visualization piece that is a part of this activity. You can use thicker paper that you can either use watercolor on or actual paint that can actually hold it and won't break. One thing that I do have, for instance, is like an 8x10 canvas that you can use. That might be necessary. You definitely will need sticky notes for this activity, and I'll get into why. And a notebook if you have one. You can also opt to use colored pencils. If you do not have sticky notes or a lot of space to post them, I do suggest maybe using a small journal size, like this size, something that you can keep on your body, that you can take with you easily, so you're not lugging around a bigger notebook. But something this size would actually be perfect. Pens, paint as well. So that's really, and paintbrushes if that's what you're gonna, if you like to paint and want to do that for this visualization, that's fine too. So before we really begin and sort of dive into this activity, I just want us to take a moment, and I want us to walk through a little bit of a breathing exercise. It's very simple. And so if you can just get comfortable wherever you're sitting, and I want you to, if you're comfortable, close your eyes. And I want you to, we're going to take 4 breaths together. So on the first breath, I want you to really focus in on inhaling gratitude and releasing worry on your exhale. So really just focus on those 2 words while you walk through this with me. So breathe in. You're breathing in gratitude. Really let that settle into your body. And on the exhale, you're releasing worry. Again, breathe in. breathing in gratitude again. Exhale, worry. And one more time, breathe in. And again, exhale. Okay. So the reason why this is such an important, and again, thank you for the opportunity for sharing this. The reason why I think this conversation is important, and that we really feel as though we're using tools, is that we are in a crisis, to say the least. And the power of the mind during this time is very critical and vital. And I think a lot of times we feel this pressure to have all the right answers right now. And I think we need to grant ourselves some grace and understanding that we nor other people all have the right answers right now. And so the refocus has to be placed back on taking these moments to intentionally self-care and heal and address what thoughts are limiting us, or making matters worse, because these are thoughts that feed our bodies, right? And really this impacts health in the long run. And so that's why I wanted to also do this. So for starters, what we're going to do is we're going to go into visualization in a moment. The first thing that I want to do in order to activate that, though, besides the breathing exercise, is I want you to pull out your notebook or whatever paper you're choosing to write this out with. And the first step is I want you to recall a negative thought. It might help to recall a thought that you might have had in the last few days. So a negative thought that you're experiencing, and then I want you to be able to state what that is out loud for yourself. So for an example would be, I have too much debt. I'm not healthy, or I don't know if I can make it. It's really whatever thought has kind of been lingering for you. Those are just examples of, just to give you sort of, a reference. But I want you to recall that thought, and I want you to write that down on your paper right now. When you've done that, I want you to also write what feelings are then associated with that thought. How does having that thought make you feel, make your body feel? Sometimes words like fatigue will come up, when in reality there's a mental block, because there's a lot of negative thought that is just cycling. And so I want you to write both. If you are having some of those physical symptoms, write those down as well, because when I say how do you feel, I do mean both mentally and physically in that regard. So take a moment and also write that down underneath your negative statement that you wrote as a negative statement. Okay. And so what happens is when there is a thought, um, whether it's quote unquote positive or negative, it carries energy and materializes whether we see it immediately or not. And most oftentimes we won't. Um, the truth of the matter is that the positive form of those thoughts carry its own momentum, right? And so, one of the interesting truths really, there's an example of, two people could be diagnosed with the same exact, terminal cancer or disease or what have you. And the disease plays out completely differently between the two of them. And a huge piece of that has to do with the thoughts, the daily practices, the rituals, the self care that they either practice or don't, right? And so that is something that is important to call out here and to call into our lives, especially in this moment where everything is just so unpredictable at this point. Um, this is how we sort of gain back a little bit more control. And your control is in your focus and what you choose to pour into and what you choose to stay away from. Um, and so I want you to now write the positive form of your statement that you wrote before. So, for instance, the example of I have too much debt. Well, now you would write I have no debt or I am debt free, might be a better way of stating that. Um, I'm a survivor or I have abundant health. Um, so you would now write the positive form of what your negative statement was. So I'll give you a moment to write that, and then we're going to do something with that. When you write the positive form of your statement, now I want you to also write, even if it's briefly and even if it's just words and not full on sentences, I want you to again write about the feelings and what that looks like. What does that positive statement look like in your life? How will you know that you reached that, right? That you have arrived to that positive statement. What does that feel and look like for you? And I want you to write that down first. And so now, what I want you to do is pull out your colored pencils, your pens. If you don't want to use color, that's fine. I do strongly encourage you to draw, but if that is something you're not comfortable with or it's just not in your mood at this time, that's fine. Maybe using some words um, instead, or honestly, you could even use materials like Play Doh if that feels better. So, what I want you to do at this time is I actually want you to draw what that positive statement would feel like in your mind and body. If there was an image that comes to mind when you think about that positive statement, what is that image? And that's what I want you to draw. You can either draw it, you can create it with Play Doh, sand, what have you, whatever artistic mode you feel best suits where you're at and how you want to express that positive thought. Um, Hopefully, if you're using materials other than paper and colored pencils or paint, that it is something that you can refer back to. So, something that will stay standing, because you're going to go back to it over several days after this activity. So, again, use your paints, use your pencils, whatever you have, or any way that you prefer to sort of create what that image is when you think about and sort of meditate on that positive statement. What would it feel like to be debt free? What would it feel like to be healthy? And draw what that looks like, or whatever your positive statement was. And as you're drawing, I just want to um, add to this. You know, there is such a thing as toxic positivity. And I think sometimes we misunderstand how the change of thought is such a necessity as part of adapting and survival. And so, what I'm talking about is not necessarily toxic positivity. What I'm talking about is the process of empowerment, the process of reversing things that feel to be true, right? Um, when in reality, that's not always the case. A lot of times we inherit our limiting beliefs. A lot of times they are thoughts that never belong to us, but we hold on to them so tightly because at some point they bonded us with someone else. They are sometimes the people that raised us. You know, it's not necessarily a natural thought that you had, and is more so now you sort of own it and are clinging to it as if you created it. Um, and it's part of the human experience, right? But healing is also a part of the human experience. And so when we're intentional about what that could look like, we then can imagine other truths, um, that sort of that set us free, more and more free each time. Um, so I just wanted to add that while you're drawing, that you sort of consider that, um, as a possibility for you, because oftentimes, yes, it is difficult to visualize something, or to think of something as true because you don't physically have it. Um, but the truth of the matter is that we do these activities, and we address these thoughts so that you can access it, right? You have to create that momentum in order to receive it. There has to be momentum behind that thought, behind you owning the positive of that statement for it to actually show up in your life. So take that in while you are doing your drawing. So the next piece to this, um, is that you will be using whatever you created, whether you drew it on the piece of paper, or made something out of Play-Doh or what have you, that represented that positive thought. one, I want to make sure that you wrote that positive form, and that what I want you to do for the next 3 days is I really want you to focus on the reframed statement. So, part of the reason why I said you may need sticky notes, or that would be the most important piece, I should say, is that you're going to write that positive statement on a sticky note. So, for instance, if I take my pad and I say, you know, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see that, but let's say I say something like, I have abundant health, right? What I'm going to do is take this sticky note and I'm literally going to place it on, for instance, my bathroom mirror. You want to place the note in a visible space that's not really obstructed by anything else or hidden. You want to be able to look at it, even if it's from a distance, because even that activates a positive momentum within you. And I want you for 3 days to focus on that one positive statement that you wrote. Post it up in your home. If you do not have enough space, I might have mentioned this in the beginning, please, by all means, maybe get a small journal like this size, where you can really reference this on your own, outside when you're out and about, or if if you're at home and you could just quickly look at it in your little journal, if you're not able to post up a lot of sticky notes. And I'm very aware that some of us also live in homes that may not be the most supportive, or people don't believe in this type of work, this type of inner work. And that's fine. What's most important is that you have access to it and that it's something you're actively able to do in a safe space. So if this is not something you can post up in your home, that's perfectly fine. If it's something that you may need to type into notes on your phone, do that instead. As long as it's close to you, that's what matters the most. It needs to just be accessible to you every day for the next 3 days, where you focus on that one positive statement. What I would love to have happen after those 3 days is that you then identify another negative thought to do this exercise with. Because part of healing does come from the reframing and the creation of, or the reversal of, certain energies. And so that's my hope, is that you take this activity with you. You find options that work for you. If you're not able to post it, right on your mirror when you wake up and you're brushing your teeth, you're seeing the positive statement in front of you, that there are other options for you and alternatives that you're able to find in order to be able to do that on a daily basis. You could use a mirror, your fridge, if you are able to use your home. I've actually used my car before. So, again, sometimes we do need that grounding piece to kind of get us into this headspace. And so what is also helpful is if you are able to keep your drawing close by as well, whether it's in that same journal or you're able to tuck the piece of paper into your journal or in a nightstand or something, so that you can also look at your image while you're reading your positive statement. That will make it even more of a impactful experience and something to look back on. So that is pretty much the wrap up of the activity. I hope that it was something that you enjoyed and something that you feel you can do and access, and maybe it's something that you can also do with friends, family, your children. It's young kids can also do this exercise as well. And so that is my little gift to you all, and thank you again for this, and um, hopefully I will be able to send more. Okay? Thank you for tuning in, and be safe. Take care of yourself and each other, and all the best. Bye.